Hey Simonics, what's up? Welcome to a new Ionic and Capacitor tutorial. Today we will focus on local notifications, which kinda look like push notifications but don't need a server or any additional setup. So you can easily schedule those notifications directly inside your application and remind the user to use your application like on the next day, every half hour, or anything like this. And we will do all of this with Capacitor. So I already started a blank new Ionic application and automatically enabled Capacitor. I also made the first build, which is always necessary if you want to add the platforms, and afterwards you can add iOS, Android, whatever you want in your project. We don't need any additional plugins, but we need to test most of this on a device. So I already brought my device up with live reload using the command, let's see, perhaps it's already, there we go, Capacitor run Android or iOS live reload external, and that works really great. Now let's get started. I added 2 buttons already. I guess you can do this as well, and then we can continue by implementing our flow. So first of all, before actually presenting the notifications, you should check if the user has allowed these notifications, and you can do this by saying await local notifications and then call request permission, not permissions, but just permission. All of this is, you can see up here, most of it comes from Capacitor core, and of course our local notifications is destructured from the plugins object that we got. Now this will already on a device ask the user to allow notifications, and let's directly dive into the basic notifications because we will also do a few other things as well. So await local notifications schedule, and within the schedule you can now construct the local notification object. Perhaps we can also dive into this. So it's really always a good idea to just look at the interface and things you can define. Of course, title, body, ID required, and then it starts with optional parameters. Schedule, we will use this later. Sound as well, icon color, attachments, a lot of other optional things that we will not go through, so you can also group them. But most of these settings are really specific for either iOS or Android, so that makes it really tricky to build it into one application and be useful on both platforms. So we will focus on the core aspects, which are challenging and interesting enough. Let's bring in something that's pretty easy. Title. Is it title? Oh, actually, the schedule expects an array of notifications, I think. Yeah, notifications. And then we can go ahead with title, whatever, friendly reminder. Body is the text you will see. Join the Ionic Academy. And then the ID is also necessary in order to if you want to cancel the notification at some point or get a list of notifications. So you could also make this unique by using whatever math function, date, anything like this. Also, what we could also do directly here is adding a little extra. Basically, extra, if we dive into this, is just any, which means you could pass any information into this. This is really handy if you want to have like a certain information that the handler of the notification in the end expects. So we will just do like a data, pass data to your handler. You could have any object here in this. That's for push notifications as well. It's always a good idea to keep any relevant information, like perhaps a user ID, a username, anything that you could need in there. You could also specify the icon color pretty easily. Let's go with red, green, blue. Let's go with this, and let's finish this. So because I got live reload activated, this should now reload on my device, and scheduling a basic notification brings up the friendly reminder to join the Ionic Academy. Nothing special in here. Let's quickly clear this. So we got place for all the other notifications. You see, it's also kind of immediately in here. And for Android, I can actually also bring in my Android device. I'm really prepared today. Thanks for this, whatever. Oh, come on, it was kind of better when I didn't touch it. Come on. Yeah, let's just leave it. So on Android, the basic notification is not popping up like on iOS, and this sound is a little special for later. And we can also see friendly reminder, join the Ionic Academy. In here we already see an icon, which we will also cover in a second. I think that's already enough for the basic. Perhaps I will just leave this open. Now, if you want to add custom icons, these will only work on Android as far as I can see from my testing. So on iOS, it will just take the app icon. But for Android, you can actually pass in your own icons. If you want to do this, you need to create your icons. And I actually found a great page that I want to show you. So it's called Android Asset Studio, whatever. It kind of looks pretty official, but I think it's just from someone on GitHub. So let's hope it's will be there for a while. There are actually a lot of options to generate also these 9-page images or launch generator, but you want to have the notification icon. You can now upload any image from your hard drive and it will create a nice file for you. The result of this is something that looks like this. So just a folder with those icons, and you can perhaps see, actually I used this one now, which is just the Ionic icon. It needs to be the special way. You just can't just upload a PNG or JPEG, so you have to create this specific file. And you can now go ahead and copy these folders into the native project, into your native Android project, under app source main res. So in the resources folder, just paste it in there. Right now for me it didn't override anything, so I can just see all of them in here. And once you get these files in the Android folder, you can also go to your capacitor config and change it a bit. Isn't there more in my capacitor config? Usually it should look like this. So, let me copy this and do it again because I don't want to lose this server part. Okay, now it's fine. So what you want to add is an entry for plugins, and in here we can make some adjustments for specific capacitor plugins. So for local notifications, you can now add some keys. You can add a small icon. You can add an icon color, which will color this icon that we just created. And you can also define a special sound. So for the small icon, you have to use the name of the file that we just pasted in here. In my case, it's IC whatever generated by this tool. And there we go. Just paste it in without the extension. The local notifications plugin will look up this file in the Android resources and will find it in there. In terms of the icon color, I'm actually not sure if it will color my image, so let's go with something crazy, just red. There we go. And for the sound, if you want to have a certain sound, you can now set it in here globally or also on the level of the schedule. We will also take a look at this. But if you want to have a sound in your application, you need to generate a file. So for example, I created a little from one of my favorite games. Okay, now it's opening iTunes. Yeah, I think you can hear this. And this file now goes once again to a very specific folder inside Android app source main resources. And in here I created a new folder called raw. And in there just paste your file. And then you can specify it here in your configuration once again, but this time with the extension. Perhaps this might change. So if it's not working anymore, might have changed perhaps also to be, but I guess for the sound it will always be with the extension. Also, if you make any changes like these, always make sure that you run another Ionic build and capacitor sync. And also for Android, as far as I know, remove the application once from your device, because otherwise I think it's not picking up the new sounds. As well, you can also set a sound file for iOS. For iOS, you can't just copy the file into the folder. That's not really working. But what is working is going into your Xcode project. I created a folder sounds. It actually doesn't matter that this is a folder sounds. The path will still be correct because it's basically now in the iOS app bundle included, and that's where the plugin will look up the sound file. So let me just drag in any kind of information, and it's important to check copy items if needed. This will add the items to your bundle, and that's what I did with this file. So copy in for Xcode or iOS, and for Android, move it in the right folder. Now with that in place, you see already, or you saw already, for the standard notification on Android, or you can hear it, hopefully. It works for Android, and I don't know why my device is now flipped. Never mind, I can handle this. But you also see that we are here got our little icon. I haven't reloaded it, so perhaps the red color would be applied if I now cancel the live reload and do it again. But at least we see the icon, and since the icon was white, I think it's actually picking up exactly the color from here. Now, that is already how to include a sound and an icon, which was in the past always a problem with the Cordova plugin, and I'm really happy that it kind of works that easy on iOS. Let's see. Not sure why I don't hear anything on iOS, but I definitely had the sound on iOS as well. So we got these basic things. Let's take a look at something else, and that are action types. There are some applications that show notification, and once you click on it, there are buttons, there's perhaps even an image or an input field. And we can do all of this, of course, with Capacitor. So I will bring in a little piece of code into our ng on init. That looks like this. Local notification register action types. It is basically an array of types that you are completely free to set up. You need one ID. As you can see, you could also have multiple of these for different kind of notifications, but that's the one ID that we will also use in a second in our application in the schedule function. And then within the actions, you can now define how the buttons look like in your notification. I'm really annoyed that my device is, for whatever reason, now it's back to normal. Okay. Again, if you're unsure about the types, just dive into this actions. Okay, of the type local notification action, and you see ID, title, requires authentication, foreground, destructive, input, blah, blah, blah. A lot of more properties that you could fill, but we will just go with a few. This will just open the application. This should actually not open the application and should have a different color. And this one will actually have an input field. Now, this is just a general registration of your action types. This doesn't mean they are used now in your notifications, and they aren't used in the notifications you've seen. But we can now dive into the schedule advanced, and in here, let's use a different ID. And then let's also use action type ID. And at this point, you have to now use the ID that you specified up here. So you can see if you have different notifications for different cases, you could define different action types and then have a completely different map instead of this. But for now, let's use chat message as the action type ID, which will allow us to use the schedule advanced. And it looks kind of the same, but once I make a force press on iOS, we see open chat, dismiss, respond. Open chat will just open the application. Dismiss won't do anything else right now. And clicking, going on to respond will actually open the input to write something that will be passed back to our application. Of course, this makes more sense like here from the outside. So once again, dismiss would now not open the app, while open chat actually should open the app. Not sure about this behavior. But let's try the input once again from the outside. Again, you can send something that's like quick reply to a little message. Now we can actually increase this view with even more. So you can add attachments, and I will bring this in because I don't want any typos. If you use the ID face, it will be displayed. I think this is kind of like a fixed ID that you have to use. As well, HTTP files or HTTPS aren't going to work. There is an open issue on Capacitor on the GitHub repository. Perhaps it is fixed in the future, but right now we can only use local assets for the images. And these images now, different than the other stuff, go simply into the web assets folder of our Ionic application. So here's an image I put there, and the URL is actually completely the same for both iOS and Android. Let's go into this, schedule advanced, and there you already see the little preview, and now I got it in here as well. And for Android, this image, I really like Android, is actually not displaying. I'm not sure if just my device is too old or if anything is wrong, but for Android this wasn't working as well. So you see really small differences here and there. We got the nice icon here, standard icon here, we got the image here but no image here, but actually the response would also work on Android. And it also kind of looks interesting on Android as it just groups these reminders. Okay, we got the action buttons, we got the attachments, local files, remember this, currently not HTTP, or check the GitHub repository. We could now also define the sound or even the small icon for Android here, but you already see on the settings, Android only. For sound it will just should work. Besides that, anything else that might be interesting is the schedule. So let's also add a little schedule. I will bring in from my example code. So this would schedule at a specific time, basically from now plus 3 seconds. So simply 3 seconds in the future. Let's try it out. Schedule advance, 1, 2, 3, and there we go. You can go really crazy with this schedule format, and it is kind of complicated. You can repeat at different times. You see every year, month, 2 weeks, weekday, hour, and you can combine basically a lot of this. So you could have like every hour and then set the count to 5, which would mean it would be every 5 hours. If you set it then to repeat, I think if you have every, I don't think you need repeat, but I haven't tried all of these configurations since I don't want to wait a month or a week or even a day for the notification. I know from the past that a lot of you had problems and that certain repeats or every wouldn't work. Just give it a try, combine different of them and then schedule them. Perhaps change the time of your device. That might actually help you to test things like in a month or so. Or you could just have it on a very specific date, year, month, date, hour, minute. So really, this is just one example. There are more examples on the Cordova plugin page because I think it's basically the same syntax like they used on the Cordova plugin. But in general, you can really create great notifications with this Capacitor plugin. As you can see, thanks for a lot of Instagram. Really, these nice views that I am used to from other native applications. I don't really use the Force Touch a lot, but already the image in here is kind of nice. And the last thing, of course, is to catch your notifications. which I'll quickly demonstrate with two little functions. So you can add to the local notifications listener, and they're just two interesting events: the local notification received and the local notification action performed. Action performed means either one of your predefined action buttons is clicked or the notification was tapped. I think for tap you will just get an action ID tap. Received means the notification was received from the device at the time when it was sent. So let's open this, and if I go ahead with schedule, you see I will immediately receive my friendly reminder custom data, and this is now also the place where the data that you might have put into the extras becomes interesting. Perhaps you want to route the user to a specific article or product in your application, anything like this. So therefore think about what you can or need as data in this listener, and then pass it in the beginning to the function. For the performed, let's once again see schedule. I will see this, and if I tap on this, I will also get performed tap. For the advanced, I could now even get the notification input values. So let's see, respond test, and then we get performed, our action ID, which is respond. So this is exactly the ID we've set up in the beginning once we registered the action types, and the value is now the value of the input field that the user has sent. So that was our quick win on using Capacitor local notifications. Really, a lot of things are working with it. Custom sounds, both iOS and Android. Images, at least on iOS. Custom small icons, at least on Android. Action types, both Android and iOS. And handling, of course, as well on both platforms. I hope you enjoyed this quick win on Capacitor. I know you want to see more on Capacitor. This is like the first start. Perhaps I will go through all the other core plugins of Capacitor as well. If you're interested in this, so just let me know below the video what you would like to see more in terms of Capacitor. If you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button and stay subscribed so you get notified about all the new tutorials, quick wins, and other app development and web development videos on this channel. If you want to learn more about Ionic with in-depth courses, a community of like-minded developers so you can learn and build your apps faster, you should definitely check out the Ionic Academy, which is my code school to help you with everything Ionic, with a huge library of courses, material, and a supportive Slack channel so we can get your app out. I hope you enjoyed this video. I will see you inside the next video. Have a great day and happy coding. Simon.